The scream cut through the parking garage like a blade. It was sharp, broken, the kind of sound that does not ask for help but demands it. I stopped walking. The strap of my old backpack pressed into my shoulder as the fluorescent lights hummed above me, cold and steady, like nothing was wrong. My shift was almost done. Another night of cleaning marble floors no one noticed. Another night closer to home, to my small apartment, to my 7-year-old daughter waiting for me with her homework spread across the table. But that scream froze me where I stood. "Help me, please!" I knew that sound. Fear that deep does not come from surprise. It comes from knowing something terrible is about to happen. I stepped behind a concrete pillar and looked. What I saw did not belong in this quiet place. 2 security guards were already down, unmoving on the ground. 4 men in black masks surrounded a woman pressed against a silver car, her blonde hair loose, her breath wild. One of them had her arm twisted behind her back, dragging her toward a black van with its door open wide. I recognized her instantly. Victoria Hale, the CEO of Hale Industries, the woman whose name was on the building I cleaned every night. She was always calm, always in control, but now her face was pale, her eyes wide with terror. "Get in," one of the men said, low and rough. Every part of me screamed to run. I was just the janitor, the invisible man with a mop and keys. I had worked hard to stay invisible. After my wife died, after cancer took her and left me alone with a little girl who needed safety more than anything, I promised myself I would never bring danger home again. That part of my life was buried. The fighting, the training, the man I used to be. Then Victoria screamed again. Something inside me cracked. I let my backpack slide to the floor. I took a slow breath and felt my body remember what my mind had tried to forget. My steps were quiet as I moved out from behind the pillar. The fear settled into focus. The janitor disappeared. The man holding her never saw me. My palm struck his elbow with clean force. His arm bent the wrong way and he dropped with a cry, collapsing to his knees. Before the others could react, I was already moving. One swung a heavy tool toward my head. I stepped inside the strike and drove my elbow into his jaw. He fell like a switch had been turned off. 2 seconds. 2 men down. Victoria pressed herself against the car, staring at me like I was not real. The last 2 rushed me together, wild, angry, sloppy. I sidestepped, grabbed one wrist and pulled. They crashed into each other. A sharp kick took one knee out. A clean strike dropped the other. Then there was nothing but groaning and the low hum of the lights again. 10 seconds, that was all it took. I stood still, breathing slow, making sure no one else was moving. Then I looked at her. Victoria Hale stared back at me, her chest rising fast, her eyes locked on mine, not as the CEO, not as the woman on magazine covers, just as someone who had been inches from disappearing. I wanted to say something, anything. Instead, I turned away. I picked up my backpack and walked back into the maze of pillars. I did not look back. I could not. The moment I did, my quiet life would be gone. By the time the sirens filled the garage, I was already outside in the night air. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next morning, I was making my daughter's lunch, cutting her sandwich into the star shape she loved. My hands moved on their own, but my mind was still in that garage, the sounds, the way she had looked at me. A knock came to the door, firm, confident. My heart dropped. I told my daughter to stay in the living room and walked to the door. When I looked through the peephole, my breath caught. Victoria Hale stood in the hallway, her tailored suit sharp against peeling paint. Her car waited outside like it belonged to another world. I opened the door halfway, blocking the entrance without thinking. "Mr. Park," she said calmly. The way she said my name told me everything. My invisible life was over. I did not invite her in right away. Victoria Hale stood in the narrow hallway like she owned the air around her, calm, sharp, watching me the way powerful people watch problems they plan to solve. "May I come in?" she asked. It did not sound like a request. I glanced back toward the living room. Cartoons played softly. My daughter laughed at something on the screen, unaware that the world had shifted overnight. I stepped aside. Victoria entered my apartment slowly. Her eyes took in everything: the small couch with a blanket folded too many times, the crayon drawings taped to the wall, a child's shoes by the door. This was not a place she belonged, and she knew it. "I came to thank you," she said. "You saved my life." "I did what anyone would," I replied. She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes were steady, but they did not believe me. "No," she said, "you did what someone trained would do." Silence stretched between us. "I can't help you," I said quickly. "Whatever this is, it's over." Her gaze hardened, but her voice softened. "It isn't." She explained it simply. The men were not random. The attack was planned. Her security had been compromised, and now the people behind it would want to know who stopped them. "Right now," she said, "you are the one thing they did not plan for." My stomach tightened. "I have a daughter," I said. "That's all that matters to me." "And that is exactly why you need to listen," she replied. She offered me a job, head of her personal security, a role that came with resources, protection, and authority, a way to keep danger far from my home. I shook my head. That life is behind me. Victoria stepped closer, not threatening, honest. "You stepped back into it the moment you heard me scream," she said. "You can walk away from me, Adrien, but you cannot walk away from them." She said my name like she had practiced it. "They will look for you, and when they do, they will not stop at you." The room felt smaller. I thought of my daughter's laugh, her small hands, the way she trusted the world because I told her it was safe. Victoria saw the shift in my face. "I will not let anything happen to her, but I need you." I hated that she was right. I nodded once. "On one condition, my daughter stays out of this." "She always will," Victoria said. "I give you my word." By noon, I was back in Hale Tower, not as the janitor. Walking those halls felt different. Eyes followed me. Whispers trailed behind. In the security room, the head of operations barely hid his dislike. He saw an outsider, a mistake. I saw weak systems. "Show me the footage," I said. The room quieted as the video played. I watched patterns, timing, mistakes. "They jammed your comms before the strike. Your guards were blind before they fell." No one argued. A delivery arrived while we were reviewing footage. A rare orchid. A gift. Something about it felt wrong. I took it apart quietly. Buried in the soil was a listening device smaller than a fingernail. "They are already inside," I said. Victoria's face went pale. That night, after the building emptied, I called someone I trusted, Miles. He had been my student years ago, smart, curious, too curious. Now he was the best at finding things that did not belong. He found 3 more listening devices in Victoria's office. They're military grade, not cheap. By morning, we had a name: Edward Blackwell, board member, rival, smiling snake, the man trying to remove Victoria permanently. I watched her as she absorbed it. She did not panic, she focused. "We need proof," she said. "And we will get it," I replied. We set the trap together. Fake travel plans, leaked weaknesses, a body double. I stayed close to her during those days, too close for comfort. Late nights turned into quiet talks, strategy drifted into stories. She asked about my wife. I told her the truth. She did not interrupt. She told me how lonely power could be. I saw the woman beneath the title, strong, tired, brave. The night of the trap, we sat side by side in a dark van watching screens glow. When the fake convoy was taken, her hand clenched once. "They took the bait," I said. She looked at me. "I trust you." That moment mattered more than any fight. At the warehouse, the lights came on. The men realized too late. When Edward Blackwell arrived expecting victory, he found cameras, police, and the truth waiting. By the time the sirens faded, it was over. Weeks passed. The building felt safer, stronger. One evening, I returned home to find Victoria there, sitting at my small table, my daughter showing her drawings. 3 figures, holding hands. Victoria met my eyes. Something unspoken passed between us. This was no longer just a job, and neither of us could pretend otherwise. Life did not slow down after that. If anything, it moved faster, like a river after a storm. My days were filled with meetings, security plans, quiet corrections that saved lives without anyone noticing. My nights were still for my daughter, homework, dinner, bedtime stories. I kept those worlds separate the best I could, but Victoria kept finding her way into both. Not on purpose at first. She would call late with questions that did not need answers right away. She would ask my opinion on things no one else dared to challenge. Sometimes she would just sit in the security room with a cup of coffee, watching the city through the glass like she was afraid of being alone with her thoughts. One night she asked me why I never talked about the future. "I don't plan that far anymore," I said. She nodded, like she understood more than I had said. Then something changed. Threats began to surface again, small ones, subtle. A car that followed too long, a message sent to the wrong inbox on purpose. Nothing clear enough to act on, but enough to remind us that power never forgives easily. I tightened security. I barely slept. Victoria noticed. "You don't have to carry this alone," she said one evening as we stood in her office after midnight. "I'm used to it," I replied. "That doesn't mean it's right," she said. Her voice was softer than I had ever heard it. That was the first night we crossed a line neither of us spoke about. We were standing too close, the city lights reflected in the glass behind her, framing her like a different world. She looked tired, human, not the CEO everyone feared. "You scare me," she said quietly. I frowned. "I'm here to protect you." "That's why, because I trust you, and trusting someone means they can hurt you." The truth of it hit me harder than any threat ever had. I stepped back. "I can't be that person for you," I said. "My daughter comes first." She nodded slowly. "I know." But the space between us never really returned. The real danger came 3 weeks later. A breach attempt. Inside the company. Someone tried to access my daughter's school records. That was when fear stopped being theoretical. I drove to the school myself, my hands shaking on the wheel. I watched my daughter laugh on the playground, unaware of how close the shadows had come. That night, I did not go home. I went to Victoria. She was already awake when I arrived, still in work clothes, like she had been waiting. "They reached for her," I said. Her face hardened instantly. "Then this ends now." She pulled strings I had never seen before. Federal contacts, warrants, pressure applied where money once silenced everything. But the cost was high. Edward Blackwell was not done. He leaked stories. He questioned my past. He tried to paint me as dangerous, unstable. The board began to whisper. One afternoon, Victoria stood in front of them and defended me without hesitation. "He saved my life," she said. "If you doubt him, you doubt me." That was the moment I realized what she was risking. Her position, her power, her future. All for me. Later that night, she came to my apartment instead of her penthouse. No guards, no assistants, just her. My daughter had already fallen asleep. We sat at the table in silence for a long time. "I won't let them use you," she said, "or her." "I never asked you to," I replied. She met my eyes. "I know. That's why I'm doing it." The weight of everything we had avoided finally settled between us. "I lost my wife," I said quietly. "I can't lose again." Victoria reached across the table but stopped short of touching my hand. "I lost everyone long before I ever met you," she said. "Power does that. It keeps people at a distance. You're the first person who didn't want anything from me." Her voice broke just a little. That was when I knew I was already too deep. We did not kiss that night. We did not need to. The bond was already there, stronger than desire, built from fear, trust, and standing together when it mattered. The next morning, Blackwell was arrested. The evidence finally surfaced. The board moved fast. He was removed in disgrace. The storm ended as suddenly as it had begun. But calm brings its own questions. One evening, my daughter asked me why Victoria smiled at me the way my wife used to smile in old photos. I had no answer, only the truth I was no longer running from, and the choice I knew was coming next. The choice I had been avoiding did not come with drama or danger. It came quietly on an ordinary morning. I was making breakfast when my daughter wrapped her arms around my waist and rested her head against my back. "Are you happy now, Daddy?" she asked, like it was the simplest question in the world. I froze. Happy was not a word I used anymore. Not since my wife died. Not since I learned how fragile peace could be. But when I looked at my daughter, safe and smiling, and thought of Victoria walking into our lives without trying to take anything from us, the answer rose before I could stop it. "I think I am," I said. That day, I asked Victoria to meet me somewhere that mattered to me. Not a boardroom, not her office, a small park near my apartment, the kind with chipped benches and children's laughter drifting through the air, a place where life felt real. She arrived without guards. She looked nervous, which surprised me more than anything else ever had. "I don't belong here," she said softly, looking around. "You do," I replied, "if you want to." We sat on the bench. I told her everything I had been holding back, the fear of losing again, the guilt of letting someone close, the promise I made to my wife that our daughter would always come first. Victoria listened. She always did. When I finished, she took a breath like she had been waiting for permission to speak. "I'm not asking you to choose me over your daughter," she said. "I would never do that. I'm asking if there's room for me beside you." The honesty in her voice undid me. "There is," I said, "but it won't be easy." She smiled, not the polished smile the world knew, but the quiet one meant only for me. Nothing worth having ever is. We took it slow. Dinners together, walks, laughter that surprised both of us. Victoria learned how to kneel on the floor and help with homework, how to listen to stories about school that made no sense. My daughter taught her how to be present without a schedule. One night, after my daughter fell asleep, Victoria stayed. We stood in the doorway, the apartment dim and peaceful. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted. She reached for my hand. "Neither do I, but I know how to try." That was our beginning. Months passed. The company thrived. The danger stayed away. My life found a rhythm I thought I had lost forever. One evening, my daughter handed Victoria a drawing, 3 figures holding hands. "This is my family," she said proudly. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. She looked at me like she was asking a question she was afraid to hear the answer to. I nodded. "Yes," I said, "it is." I proposed to Victoria in the same park where we first talked. No cameras, no headlines, just us. She said yes without hesitation. The wedding was small, private, perfect. I stood there holding her hand, my daughter smiling between us, and realized something simple and powerful. I had not saved a CEO's life that night in the garage. She had saved mine, too, by reminding me that love can return when you least expect it, that family can grow in unexpected ways, that even a man hiding in the shadows can step into the light again, and this time, stay there.